Welcome to Captive Audience. Wonderful Wednesday. Here we are, Don.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, it is. Well, yes, it is. Well, once again, the weather, or not the weather, but the news has never left us for anything wanting to talk about, right?
This is true.
But speaking of weather, how's it doing over there on your end?
We've just had one of those amazing downpours that just happen in the western part of the state, where you get this blue sky, and then all of a sudden, like 15 minutes of just like you got to slow your car down 20 miles an hour, and then it stops, and then the drainage system can't handle it. So cars will be in one lane on the side of the road, splash water all the way to the other side. It's been quite an evening. Thunder to go with it, right? It was. I love when it does
Oh,
it.
wow.
As long as you're sitting inside, it's a beautiful thing. If you're driving, heaven help you, particularly if you're on a freeway.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's sprinkling over here right now, but it's
Mhm,
otherwise fine. And
mhm.
the snow's disappearing because the temperatures have risen. And but anyway, it's winter time. It's
Eh,
winter time, but
I like
it's not.
50 degrees a lot better than 15 degrees.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I don't even know what it got up to today. I had to go out and do a bunch of errands and what, and I
Mhm,
thought, oh, this is nice. I'm not driving on a sheet of ice.
right, right. Uh-huh.
There was
That's
lots of snow still around, but not driving on a sheet of ice. So
absolutely.
yeah. Well, listen, hitting here at home, I just posted a link, and Monique Despain, who is running for office, and my article that I just did has something. Here we go.
Mhm.
This is from posted on Epic 4. Is calling, Monique is calling on the U.S. Attorney to explore Val Hoyle's alleged involvement in the Lamoda scandal. And I'll tell you, she's done this today. She held a press conference, and she's even launched a website that says, "What is Congresswoman Val Hoyle is hiding? What is she hiding from the public in the Lamoda scandal?"
Mhm.
And calling for the U.S. Attorney for the District of Oregon, Natalie White, to expand the current investigation by her office into Lamoda and the resigned ex-Secretary of State Shemia Fagan, so to include Val Hoyle. And I quote, she says, "Today I unveiled a detailed reporting of Val Hoyle's corruption and my call to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Oregon to investigate her immediately. Uh, I contend that Congresswoman Val Hoyle has disqualified herself from further public service in Congress as our representative because she has demonstrated a pattern of corruption, obstruction, and deceit for at least the past 3 years," end quote. Um, and I can't disagree with that statement. And it's
Mhm.
hard to imagine not that we do have those in Congress that are deceitful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of amazing. You're constantly amazed once it comes to light and you actually see it. It's like one thing this is, and we have another case, of course, we'll get to a little later in another state, but when you actually see it, it just is amazing that people could be so corrupt.
Yes, it is. And so I have just put a link to the website there in our comments, and I think this is good. It's a sign a petition, and sign the petition. Tell the DOJ they need to investigate Val Hoyle. And she on this website is a timeline of Val's corruption. And this is, quite frankly, very handy to have because you are looking back. It starts in March of 2021, and and remember, she has not turned over phone records
Mhm.
since she was supposed to. There's been FOIA, and she was supposed to turn over phone records. And she's, as when she was the Bureau of Labor and Industries, Boley, the commissioner, and she still has not done that.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
she's I believe that she believes that she is above the law.
Well, apparently she is. Nothing's happening. I mean, the negative incentive isn't there. We see that throughout the state. The district attorney won't. They're not going to prosecute minor thieves. What makes you think you're going to go after white collar crime with people who have power?
Yes, exactly. And so I really hope that the there will be an investigation into her, and more come out, because it's this level of corruption is what we have to get out of our government. We absolutely have got to get it out of our government. It's because they're not working for the people when you have this type of level of corruption. It's just not working for the people. It is all about them and keeping their ilk in power, or their donation secret,
Mhm.
and on and on and on, and we just don't, we see this on so many levels, and I'm sure our audience is as tired of it, as I am, of all of us. We just keep seeing this over and over.
Yeah. Well, this is why you want government small, so you can minimize the damage. It's never going to do great stuff, but you can minimize the damage, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know that Val Hoyle has ever returned the donations that
Mhm.
was received. I'm not sure. I've not, kept up on that. But from Lamoda, there was lots of donations there, and I just,
Yeah,
anyway,
it was
I
just the confusion over who the donator and the donatee was.
Well, and when you are the commissioner of Bureau of Labor and Industries, and you are supposed to be looking at um, the license, what's going on in businesses, right, in our state, and so here we have, they've Lamoda didn't pay. They had 1.7 million in unpaid bills, and the they have tax liens on Lamoda, and this is who was um, helping to fund Val Hoyle, but she's supposed to be looking over this,
Mhm.
this type of thing.
She
And
was looking over it
oh, right, right. And
very
so
closely.
yes. And the donations were to the top Democrat politicians in Oregon: Val Hoyle, Governor Tina Kotek, Senate
Mhm,
President Rob Wagner, and
mhm.
former Secretary of State Shemia Fagan.
Yeah. Wow.
And this is we've got, I believe, my opinion, and is that we've got quite a bit of corruption in this state,
Mhm,
and this is, could be a tip of the iceberg. And so I'm really glad, she's still in November 2023. 11 months failed to turn over the public records. She does turn over, I'm seeing now, I'm reading in this, that they've turned over cherry picked cell phone text messages.
mhm,
And the public record advocates call this a self audit, and
mhm.
it's an affront to transparency. And that is what we need. We need transparency of those that are serving. So, anyway, I just commend Monique for doing this.
Mhm.
And, there's been lots of news articles about Val Hoyle's deceit and corruption and stonewalling, and the voters need to be reminded of this. And there should be an investigation into these things. And let's let's open the files, right?
Right,
Let's bring
sure.
some
Mhm.
transparency, and get the best person for for this position, and that clearly is Monique Despain.
Yeah.
Clearly
Mhm.
Monique.
Yeah.
So, what else we've got? Speaking of corruption, in another state, this is so interesting. You guys have You've heard about Arizona GOP chair and the bribery allegations with Kerry Lake. I
Mhm.
would just about bet. Well, there was a recording that actually Miss Lake did. She says that she often records, and actually, I have a link here to a live or a link that from ntd.com live TV, and I pulled it out of Epic TV, and I'm going to post that in the comments. And this is Carrie Lake, in her own words, talking about this. And this is a big deal, and which has now been from the time the discovery of this, or the leak of that. I won't say the discovery, but the leak of this. Asking Carrie Lake, I listened to the recording, and yes, it's an edited recording. And I would have preferred had it not been edited. Let's just hear the whole thing. And but now Jeff DeWitt, who is the Arizona chairman, has stepped down, as frankly I believe he should. It's
Hey,
because,
something more than step down needs to happen to him. I mean, that is like that's got to be a crime. I heard it this morning when I was driving to work, and they replayed it. It's difficult to hear on a car radio, but if you turn it really loud and you listen really close, in effect, he's bribing her. He's basically it was almost like out of a movie like Breaking Bad or something, right? Hey, we got some big wigs on the East Coast, can't name their names. There's money to be had here, sort of a thing, right? I mean, you can't. We know this stuff happens intuitively, but to actually hear it, it's just next level.
well, I listened to him today, and he has been quite involved with the Trump campaign in 2016 and in 2020. And he's apparently very conservative. And he said that, I'm just going to just be the devil's advocate here, because he said, you know what? I was having a private conversation with a friend. This was in person, face to face. This was not a phone call. And so, was this a setup? He said, I said things I regret, but I realized when hearing Lake's recording that I was set up. That's what he said. I believe she orchestrated this entire situation to have control over the state party. Well, you know what? She didn't orchestrate what came out of his mouth, right? So I disagree with that.
Yeah.
But so he has now resigned. And um, I don't know the inner workings of the Arizona Republican Party, but the best thing for him to do for the party is to resign after what he did. Do I think he could have been set up by others, not necessarily in the state party? Because I'm going to post this right now that I just listened to right before coming on, and it is from Patrick Leahy, and I found this on Citizen Free Press.
Mhm.
He reports that Michael Patrick Leahy reports that the Kerry Lake bribe might have been sent by the NRSC. He states in this video, which is what I have just posted, sources have told us that the message came from the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which, as you know, is controlled by Mitch McConnell. Well, Mitch McConnell is a globalist.
Mhm.
Kerry Lake clearly is not.
Yeah.
And so let's see, could that have been exactly what transpired there?
Mhm.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. Politics,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
Carrie said today, she says, politics, it's a swamp. It is a swamp in DC. And did it come from the RNC? I have no idea. I've kind of read some comments about that. Don't know. Um, but I could certainly see the NRSC, because she's running for the Senate. And the Senate's going, no, we don't really want her. She's a great let's just have her pause. So
Mhm.
I believe it's unfortunate.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, because
But it
he's the one
fits.
who did it, right?
Yeah.
Jeff
I mean,
DeWitt
it's
is
like,
the one
yeah,
who carried the message that he received
sure.
to Carrie Lake.
Yeah, I mean, if you're smart in this kind of a business, you have carve outs and cutouts, just like spies, right? If you're a spy master, you make sure there's 3 or 4 levels, maybe 7 or 8 levels between you and the person who's actually doing the puppeteering here, right? So that none of that surprises me a bit. Um, and that whole defense that he was entrapped. Hey, he's entrapped the same way as if I walked into a Walmart and stole some stuff and then I got caught. I was entrapped because they had cameras there. They didn't tell me they had cameras. I was entrapped. If my wife hires a detective and she catches me cheating on her, I was entrapped.
Right.
That's like such a weak argument. She didn't twist his arm and make him say that stuff and make him make that.
No, no, he did that on his own volition,
Yeah.
and it's a shame because he should have said to whomever had said that to him and made the request. But politics is all about back scratching. And
Well,
in the video, he says, "Well, Carrie, you can't scratch a back." And it is, and so, and she says something to that effect. I don't want to misquote the audio of that. But also, she has been a reporter forever. So for
mhm,
anybody to think that she doesn't have a mic on her at
mhm,
all times,
mm,
this is what she's been doing her whole this was her career
mhm,
before she got into politics. And she jumped into politics because she is sick and tired of the swamp,
mhm. Right. Yeah.
and the corruptness going on. And I commend her. I like her very, very, very much.
Yeah.
And believe me, we've got that in our own state of Oregon, in
Mhm.
our own party. I see it. I've been on the inside. I am a county chair,
Mhm.
and you could say I'm still on the inside. I see
Sure.
what's going on, and with the head of our party, with some of those that are on the executive committee. I'm not going to say everybody. And
Well, it's human nature.
we need to clean house in our own state.
Yeah. It's any big organization has certain degrees of this going on. And the bigger you make the pot of money, the more of it you're going to have, and the more slick and evil are going to be the people chasing that pot of money. It's not surprising in the least.
No, it isn't. Not at all. Because, and I like what Carrie said. She says, I'm fighting in that video
Mhm,
or audio. She says, I'm fighting for our country. This isn't about money. You're not going to buy me with anything.
mhm,
Well, yeah, she knew it was getting recorded. So
mhm,
she's going to say, uh, you know, what's going to suit her. But I do
mhm.
believe that is her intent. And I'm glad that very interesting. Did she know about that ahead of time? Did she know this was coming? Who knows? Who knows? We don't know, but
Well, hey, you can make the
the
argument in the
chairman
direction.
stepped
I
down.
mean, hey, somebody should be trying. They could have been trying to entrap her. Getting her to say, "Yeah,
They
imagine the
very well
value
could
in
have.
that," and
Right,
then
no
weaponizing
kidding.
that against her.
No kidding.
So that sort of thing is always possible. This is why, like your mother always told you, always tell the truth.
Absolutely. Always, and you don't have to remember the truth, right? When you tell a
Right.
lie, you have to remember, what did I say? And people always
Mhm,
get busted with that. And the
mhm.
truth is just natural. It just comes out and it's just natural.
I'm
And
not so sure it's natural with some people anymore.
no, no, I would say not. I would say not for
I
sure.
used to think that, but I hear you. We have to have some fun here, right?
Yeah, we do. Definitely. Definitely.
Because
So
lying's way too easy for the left. It's just easy.
yeah, it is. And and politics is not for the faint at heart. If you
Mm,
want to get involved in politics, it is
mhm,
not for the faint at heart. And you better know exactly your values and stick to them. Be
mhm.
and be alert or be aware that somebody would try to entrap you in some way, shape, or form. That is part of the game, the nature of that business, unfortunately. And especially when you're playing at the national level, as a Senate position is, because they don't want the Senate, our Senate, unfortunately, or let's just say Mitch McConnell, he
Mhm.
doesn't want America first
Mhm.
type, MAGA type senators in the
Mhm.
Senate. And there was I was watching something today that oh gosh, James O'Keefe had
Mhm.
just released.
Mhm.
Very interesting. If you follow OMG,
Mhm.
O'Keefe Media Group, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I don't have any of those links here, but go
Mhm.
look at that because he's doing a video, undercover video with an intern in DC, and that
Mhm.
was really went, whoa, that's the kind of stuff that's going on back there.
Yes.
So but there's so many people, the MAGA movement, it's Trump is the leader of our Republican Party.
Mhm.
I believe that very much. To me, he won in 2020. He's now going to win again in 2024, and actually, I believe get to
Mhm.
be our president again. But what he has started is the awakening of Americans
Mhm.
to what's been going on that we've been asleep to.
Well, I tell you, and I would add this. Yes, he's the leader of the party, I think, but with a twist. Um, there are people who talk about the uniparty, and I think those people they were they had a lot to say that was correct. You had the radical left that was driving us straight off the cliff, but then you had the rhino types. You think about the Romneys and the current one who's still running against. I can't think of her name. All of a sudden, I forgot her name. Who's running against President Trump right now? Won't leave the race. Um,
Oh
people like
yeah, let's see,
can't
Nikki
remember
Haley.
her already. That's right.
You
Forgot her
know what?
already.
It happens to me too. Yeah, we remember
Bobby.
her so well.
Yes. Thank you, Bobby Haley. That one. And so yeah, you think about when Trump was president, he didn't get a lot, and he had the House and the Senate, and he still couldn't get very much passed because the Republican Party was loaded with rhinos.
Yeah,
So he had to run in one of two parties, because we don't do third parties in this country. The Republican establishment didn't want him. They still don't want him. So essentially, he's having to, for the conservative majority in this country, take over a party that was just gliding down the same path as the Democratic Party. Um, and if he wins, and heaven help us if he doesn't, but if he wins again, that fight will still be there. Look at the last midterm election, and these guys just, business as usual for the most part. So it's going to take a really heavy-handed guy to drive that.
yes, it does, and you're absolutely right. There's people that say, well, Trump didn't get anything done. All the things he didn't get done, when we had all three branches, but yet he did. There's a lot that he got done, and he was shut down
Mhm.
by the Uniparty. We do have those that are just self-serving, and they are globalists in our party, and that's a shame. They're everywhere.
Yeah, he got everything done that he could do. He did everything he said he was going to do,
He
and
did.
and things were awesome in spite of them. But think about how many more things he could have gotten done if he had a legislature behind him. I mean, he did a lot of things by administrative fiat, which isn't the ideal way to do it because the minute that Biden gets elected, the next day he flips all that stuff. Um,
Right. And they should have been right there going, let's pass this, pass this, pass this, pass this.
mhm,
They could have fixed the border and the medical situation,
yeah,
Medicare, medical
mhm,
insurance. And those were two things that he said.
mhm.
And yet they didn't do the medical much. He got a lot of the wall done, but he was just stifled at every every way he went and turned, and those in our party, but were not helping. But there were a lot of people helping him, I believe, as well.
Yes.
It's not everybody, but
Hmm.
it's a lot. And so this thing that I saw today from OMG talked about our those at in our Congress and in our Senate of being blackmailed, honey potted. They've been invited to a party and they've got something on them. And I'll tell you, anybody that has, and so now they're going to control their vote that way.
Hmm.
And anybody with any integrity, you know what, you might have caught up with something. It would be in their best interest to just come clean and go, you know what, yeah, I screwed up, but you're not owning my vote anymore.
Hmm.
There's a way of swiping that slate clean,
Hmm.
and you could turn things around. And this is where politics, that's going to happen in politics everywhere,
And see, yeah,
everywhere.
and this is where it goes back to. We say this over and over again about not Adam Smith, President John Adams. That initial statement: "This Constitution is only fitting for a moral people, and it won't work for any moral people because you have to have. It takes a moral individual to be willing to go to office and be disliked and say things that are unpopular and to risk not getting reelected and not get reelected. Um, there's honor in that." And it takes an honorable person to do it. And obviously, we don't have enough of them. They're there, but we need more of them. Um,
Yeah, and to Lori's point, how do you clean up 50 years of corruption in one term? You can't. But
can't.
you know what? And this is where the MAGA movement is electing those people that are that have the moral fiber and the moral character that we need to help get into office, like Monique Despain, like Carrie Lake, and others. I have donated to try to help candidates across the United States because I don't donate to the party any longer. I only will donate to a candidate that I have vetted to the best of my ability. Have I got them all right? No, you
Mhm.
know, but because you just don't know sometimes until they're in office, or you find out something a little bit later.
Mhm.
But
And of
we
course, you
need
have to
to, we
recognize.
need, it's in the best interest to help candidates all over the nation, to help them get good candidates to get elected. It's in all of ours best interest, because that is how we can, take back the Senate and keep control of the House.
And there's some practical things here too. I mean, it's sometimes you got to vote for the lesser of two evils. I mean, that's just how it
Oh,
is. We're
absolutely.
not always going to have. We've never had a case, I don't think, where the since the Civil War, where the difference between the two candidates is so stark. To be someone who's sitting on the fence between these two, I don't know where your brain has been. I mean, this this isn't a Clinton Bush moment. This is
No,
yeah, this is not that.
but in New Hampshire last night, that was an open primary.
Hmm.
And there's huge numbers of Democrats or independents that were voting for Nikki Haley. They weren't voting for Nikki Haley, they were voting against Trump. It was all, and so had it been people actually voting for Nikki Haley, uh, I think the disparity between the two would have been huge.
Oh, she got slaughtered. I saw an analysis of that. I think it was by the numbers. It was like 54-44, something like that. Right? Was the
Right.
final analysis, but something like based on this study of the data, 70% of her votes were from Democrats, basically voting in the primary. So if you take that off the top and just did the rough math, she really got about 12%. So it was like 88-12. If you
Right.
do the math, right? I mean, she got destroyed. Um, in a place where she was expecting to actually, there was talk of her actually beating him. Um, and, and, and she's going to go to South Carolina. Is it South Carolina or North Carolina? South Carolina?
South
North.
Carolina.
She's going to South Carolina and get slaughtered in her home state. Um,
Right, where she was governor.
Right.
you
That's
know,
what's
and
going to
and
happen.
she is an absolute globalist. And when
Yeah.
I hear Trump call her a globalist, he knows more about her than I do.
Hmm.
And I just go, okay, I'm paying attention to what you're saying. You
Hmm.
know, this is where we will, I think, do well to pay attention to what he is saying about different people. But I heard Nikki Haley with my own ears at an RNC meeting slamming Trump. And I knew right then, this was before she declared she was running for president, but I went, okay, she's taking a test here in the RNC to see. And she didn't get a standing ovation. About a third of the people in the RNC, which is 165 or the 185, and and no, it is 165. I did say that correctly the first time. And there is, um, I thought, wow, for a person who she put her in the UN,
Hmm.
right? And then to hear her bashing him at an RNC meeting, it blew my mind. I lost all respect for her, and she is part of the Uniparty. She's might as well just put a D right next to her name because that's where she's at. She'll be wanting more wars. And so I saw some commentary today. Well, she's hoping that he'll get convicted and she'll be the front runner then. Well, let me tell you, Ron DeSantis only suspended his campaign. He didn't end
Hmm.
his campaign. Same with
Hmm.
Vivek Ramaswamy, suspended his campaign. And
Hmm.
that is something to pay attention to because it's also with a federal PAC. They don't want to end it because now that money has to leave.
Well, I
Could
have a
they?
thought for you. This is kind of a wild thought. I didn't read this anywhere, but I think it's an interesting one. She's a progressive, different than the Democrats. And they don't really care whether the person has an R or a D after their name as long as they do their bidding. It'd be a pretty slick maneuver if somehow Trump was taken out by whatever means they use. And she wins the nomination, and they don't want Biden either. She'd certainly be more popular than him. I mean, maybe that's the play. Maybe the play is they move Biden aside, and maybe she becomes the Democratic nominee. I, she's
The
more popular than
Democrats
anybody
want
else.
her. It's the Democrats that are
Right.
funding her. But she
Yeah.
did her one of her largest donors
Hmm.
paused all donations on her today. I don't remember
Yeah.
the fellow's name. I
But
saw.
she's the strongest Democratic candidate there is. The problem is she has an R after her name right now. She, she is. Who
You're
else?
right, Don. She
I
is.
mean, look. If it came down to it, would you rather have her or the California governor? You'd rather have her.
I would. It's right. The lesser of two evils. You're
Right.
absolutely
Yeah. I
right.
mean, going to the lesser of two evils, she's better than him. She's a stronger candidate than Michelle Obama. Um, I
Nope. We're gonna Don. I'm cutting this off right now. We're ending up. We're gonna have Trump,
I'm just playing the devil's advocate. It's fun and
and that's
interesting.
good to
And
do. That's good
the
to
very
do.
candidate the one they should, if they had a primary like any decent presidential election, which they should. Where's the primary on their side, by the way? How come we don't hear
Yeah.
about RFK? How come we don't hear about the guy that he had to do a write-in in New Hampshire to beat the candidate that did run? I can't think of his name, but they won't even have a primary. Where's the debates on that side? It's incredible.
Well, it is incredible. We are seeing because we're in such a fight for our nation going to communism, okay, the globalists
Yeah, one party.
versus, pardon? Yes, right. And so we're in this fight, and you can tell by what the Democrats are doing. I won't even say Joe Biden because he's not running the show. Let's just be flat honest. He is not running the show. Um, that with everything they're doing, they've got the pedal to the metal, trying to accelerate it all. And that's why this is so important. And we should never be surprised by what the left is what lengths the left is willing to go to to get control, keep control because right now they are in control, like it
But
or
it's coming,
not.
but it's slowly coming apart. Like we talked a minute ago about the popularity of Trudeau up in Canada. His
Yes.
approval, 70% of the population would rather he not be there. In Canada, I mean that's pretty impressive. We all know about the Italian PM and where she is. Poland, same thing. Uh, uh, Romania, the
Yeah.
guy in Latin, what is it? Not Peru, but not Venezuela, Argentina, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
this is happening over and over again as the general population is seeing what the progressives are about. They don't want what they're selling, and that's a
No.
great thing.
That is a great thing. The tide, more people are waking up, and the tide is, the pendulum is swinging. And oh, I wish it would swing faster.
It's too bad so many of them had to wait to get hit in the busted in the mouth, before they really understood it. Which is probably a great bridge to talk about immigration, right? Um,
Yes.
it's all theoretical that people are going to cross the border and cause all these problems, but people don't believe it until it's in their backyard. And now we have it in their backyard, right? It's not a far off distant thing in Texas or Arizona. Now it's in New York and Chicago. And now they're crying.
Yeah, definitely they are crying. In fact, I just put an article, and that's one of the best things that Abbott, and all the states could do is send, beyond sending them back, but is sending them to the sanctuary states, because now they're feeling the pain. It is not just Texas or New Mexico, Arizona, California that is having to deal with this, or Florida for that matter. They don't have a border with Mexico, but they have the ocean where people are arriving from, and they're also flying into, you know.
Virtue signaling is great when you don't have to pay the price for it. Um,
Yes.
and now they're paying the price for it. Now their schools are overrun, their social services are overrun, their hotels are being given to people to live for free, while citizens are sleeping in the street, veterans are sleeping in the street. You voted for it. You got a sanctuary city. Hey, be a sanctuary. Stop
Yeah.
crying.
So to answer Lori, the question is, Bobby, when is Oregon's primary? And it is May, and it's typically the first Tuesday of May. So whatever that date is, that should be our our primary. And we're like one of the last states to have a primary. And every county should be trying to push for, in person voting, precinct voting, paper ballots, screw the machines. Let's do that, because we can do that here in Oregon. And let's go to back to precinct voting in person on paper. I
Mhm.
think it'd be great. It will definitely, I think, help us with,
Well,
well, we can't force the ID. I would love to have ID. I don't know if we can
But
get that,
but it
but
was one of the things that was so cool was watching Iowans go out and go to their precincts and sit in their in the local gyms and in the cafes and in the coffee shops and have a good old fashioned. This is the way it used to be. This is the way the democratic system was designed to work. And people talked and discussed and debated without like throwing things at each other and cursing and all of that. And then people made a vote and a decision. It makes me think back to when I was a kid. My parents they'd walk down to the school, right? The whole neighborhood. Have a couple of
yeah.
babysitters, stick around and watch the rest of us, and they go down and they voted in person, pulled the curtain back. That's the way it's supposed to work, and we need to get back to that.
Yeah, we do. And that would be awesome if our state Republican Party would push for that. But we have some people that don't have a spine, in the leadership, and it's a shame. They
It's
just,
too easy to cheat the other ways.
oh, it is. It
It's
is.
just not only is it too easy, but also and here's these other things. We become, and part of this is the social media, the computers, the television. We becoming an asocial country. That's not good. The great thing about that Iowa town hall thing, you came together as a community. You met your neighbor.
Yeah.
You talked to your neighbor. You know your neighbor. We got people who live in a place 20 years, don't even know who their neighbor is. Something happens to them, they drop dead. They've been sitting in the house dead for 2 weeks. Cops come by, you didn't hear anything? I don't know who it is. Never seen in my life. Right? That's not good. This
No,
is
no, it
yeah,
isn't.
yeah.
And you could help to get the senior citizens down there.
Mhm.
And you still have an absentee ballot though too for those that can't come or going to be out of
Oh,
town
absolutely.
and
Right.
whatnot. But
But for
it
the vast
is, and they
majority,
knew the results at the end of the night.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and here's the thing, it's there should be a hurdle to doing it. If you are too lazy to spend 15 minutes out of your day to go execute on basic civics, then you shouldn't vote. I mean, I hear people all the time, everybody should vote. I've never thought that. When I heard that, like clear back when I was a teenager, I thought, why should everybody vote? Some people are just too lazy and dumb to vote.
Well, that's
I
a
don't want
fact.
them to
That's a
vote.
fact. Those that
Right.
have not educated themselves about what's going on. David and I have talked about anytime that there's a vote that's on taxes.
Mhm.
You don't want all the renters showing up and saying, "Oh yeah, we want more taxes." They don't realize, "Oh yeah, your rent's going up."
No,
You know?
exactly. I mean, I would never, I know it would never pass, right? But the reality is there should be some sort of contribution test to be a voter. I mean, now obviously you're retired or whatever in Social Security. I'm not talking about that. But if you're not a contributor, if you're a net tax taker,
Right.
maybe
Right.
you shouldn't vote. I you know
You know?
you're allowed to vote to take money from your fellow citizen and put it in your pocket. That's the
Right.
system we have now.
Right.
Now
Yeah. That's not a win-win for everybody. And because, and so I hadn't thought my thought processes had not gone that far, Don, but that's
I,
not a bad
I know
idea.
I'm to the right of Attila the Hun. I get it. Reagan is a blazing left winger in my world, and I know you got to be realistic about these things. I'm not actually advocating that, but that's not an evil thought.
No, no, it isn't. And so Marjorie says with her voters pamphlet, she says, I'm a lot better voter when I'm at home with my voters pamphlet. Well, you could take your voters pamphlet to the polling place, right? Or you could study it
Mhm.
before you vote. But I will tell you, even the voters pamphlet here in Oregon is not honest because on a ballot measure, you have the pro and the con. And you can write a pro and put it in the con section. They allow that. I have seen the voters' pamphlets. I study these. In fact, I have some from many elections to see, and how they're doing. So you cannot trust even your voters' pamphlet. You can use it as a guide, but I'll tell you, you should talk to the people that are plugged in, the PCPs, precinct committee people across our state that are plugged in and paying attention to the politics.
Plus, I tell you, half that stuff's like word salad. I mean,
Oh, it is.
you read the thing, it's like, what is that guy saying? You can't tell what they stand for. Oh, I'm for clean air and water. Well, great. Who isn't?
Right.
But to be, but to be thrown in the room with your fellow citizens and hear some back and forth on it, you don't have to say a word. You just listen to your fellow citizens like actually debate issues, and then come to a conclusion. I think we wind up better off because of it. Um, but
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And in our county, I can remember one election that because the counties make their own voter pamphlet that is supposed to go inside of the bigger voter pamphlet. And
mhm,
one year I get my voter pamphlet and I contacted the county and I go, what happened? All
mhm,
of the county stuff's not in here. Oh, well, we submitted it. It didn't
mhm.
get put in. I go, that's not right. Where was the follow up with that?
So that's where
That was crap.
can I give you the Anderson voting guide simplicity system? So this is what I taught my kids. You guys can take it or leave it, right? But it worked for me. If I'm really lazy with my voting, here's the solution. Does it cause a new rule or regulation? If it does, the answer is no. Does it cause an increase in taxes? If the answer is yes, then that's a no vote, right? Um, anything that causes a new rule or regulation, anything that causes a new tax, no. Um, if I see, if my neighbor down the street who's a hard left winger is for something, then I know it's the opposite. Because I can tell by the sign in the yard. This so if you have to be lazy, I'm giving you the simple solution to voting.
And
If you
if it
see,
changes the Constitution, vote no.
vote no. Right. If
A
it's
very,
pro.
a very good friend that I had who was quite the woman in our town. She lived to be 100. Dorothy Hurd was her name. And she had always said that was her golden rule. If it wants to change the state constitution, vote no. And we wouldn't have Measure 110 that right now if that was the case. We wouldn't have the senators, the senators who were trying to stand up for Oregonians that walked out, not being able to run for re-election right now. Had people followed that. If it wants to change our constitution, vote no. Now, if we can undo that, I'm going to tell you the opposite. If we can undo that, then, and that comes back around, I would say, let's go for that. But,
Well,
that's,
yeah.
those are very good, Don. Very good. Taxes,
Yeah.
no.
And if you
Yeah,
want to change the
more
Constitution,
control, no. More, taking our freedoms away, vote no.
yeah, there's a process for changing the Constitution. It's like leftists never want to follow it. They'd rather do something like they did with Roe v. Wade, right? But
Right.
if you want to change the Constitution, you put forth the Constitution. We all know the process, the constitutional amendment. They never want to do that because they always lose.
Yeah. Hey, Don, I've got a piece of good news.
A
So
piece, all
in
right.
Ohio, the legislatures passed a ban on trans procedures for minors. The governor vetoed it. And today, the Ohio legislature overrode the governor's veto. And so
Kudos.
the ban is going to be taking effect in 90 days.
Mhm. Kudos to them. That is
Yes,
so awesome.
that is very, very good news. And absolutely, we need more of this. We need a lot more of this. Looking out for the people, looking out for the children,
Mhm.
and legislators doing the hard work. It's not about being a friend,
Mhm.
And yeah, the governor's a Republican, and so it's so just because he has an R doesn't mean he's truly a conservative or on our side. And let's see, did they have something on the governor there?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
he's probably just enjoying being liked. I mean, the thing is, if you want to be liked by the right people, then you vote for that stuff. And that's why it takes a
Yeah.
lot of courage. And I kudos to those legislators because they're not going to be invited on all the TV shows and get liked and loved by all the right people. It's not going to happen. They're going to catch
Yep.
arrows, they get called names, and that is the price of doing the right thing. There's been some pretty important people in history that were very unpopular for doing the right thing. And in fact, the people that we uh, idolize the most are people who, in their time, weren't popular. A few
Yeah.
were
So, and
even crucified.
absolutely, absolutely. And so today the Senate voted, the House had voted 65 to 28 earlier this month. And today the Senate voted 23 to 9. And kudos to them. That's what you do when because you would say, well, the governor's the leader of the party in the state. Well, you know what, he's not doing the right thing, and so it's a
Yeah.
win-win for
And that's
Ohio.
why it's not a dictatorship. That's why you have House members to reflect the will of the people. And just think of this for a minute. Think
Exactly right.
about at bottom what this is about. So we're going to allow minors to get chopped up. I mean, just think about it. It's a permanent decision that you cannot reverse. Um,
No.
this seems to me that it's common sense that you would not let a minor, not let that happen to a minor. Now, once they become an adult, it's still horrendous, but they can make that decision. But
Exactly.
for a minor to do that is crazy. And we've never in the history of our country or anywhere in the world that I could think of done that to minors.
Yeah, it's not good, and we have never done this kind of thing, and it has to get shut down. And if it's state by state, whatever, what you choose to do as an adult, have at it. That's your life. You have to live with the consequences. But a child is not doesn't have the capacity to make those decisions in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Any way, shape, or
We're
form.
not talking about piercing your ears or getting a tattoo here.
Right.
You know,
You're not. No, we're not. No,
no,
we're not. Not at
you're
all.
you're
And
never
those,
having a yeah. You're never going to have a baby. You never can. You're never going to get breasts back. You're never going to get other body's parts back. You're done for life.
well, and from a few stories that I've read, that the puberty blockers also stop your mind from developing as it could have.
Hmm.
So I mean, this isn't just the physical, it's also the mental.
Hmm.
And as we've seen, the last several shootings have been by people that are on these puberty
Oh,
type blockers
yeah.
and hormone replacement therapies, or whatever you want to call them.
And we
And
don't know what the long term effect of these things are
no,
going to
no,
be
we don't.
because we haven't had a long time to test it out, unfortunately or fortunately. Um, I, I, I would not be surprised one bit if we find out 10 or 15 years from now, these people are the ones that are still alive are
Yeah.
dying of cancer.
Yeah, no. Hey, Don, thank you for a great show tonight, you guys. We got to cut this off. We're having fun, but we've
That
got to
was, wow,
go.
look at the time.
I know. I know. I've got to go cook dinner. I've got a
Oh,
couple
wow.
hungry people here in the house.
And I got to go eat dinner. Imagine that. Too bad I'm not at your house. That's a great combination.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. Spread, share our message, spread our voice around. And thank you so much for being a part of our program.
Good night, everybody. That was fun.
Yep. See you Friday. Oh, actually, I won't be here Friday. I'm sorry. But Don will be here with David.
Me and
So
David,
Don will be back with David on Friday. And thank you very much, Don, for filling in for me.
looking forward to it.
Good
I
night.
mean, always looking forward to it, but yes. Good night, everybody.